But imagine that 10th kid. Imagine that 10th kid who hears, oh, from when he's a young kid, oh, when are you gonna have a girlfriend? When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna do this? Hey everybody, my name is Nick. I'm a director living in Taiwan, and today I'm going to be talking about the film The Wedding Banquet, directed by Li An, also known as Ang Lee if you're from the United States. So this film has a very sitcom-like premise. There's a rich gay Taiwanese man named Wai Tong living in New York City with his lover Simon. Wai Tong's mother keeps badgering him to find a good Taiwanese or Chinese wife. She doesn't know that he's gay. So Simon hatches a plan to keep the parents out of their business and out of their happy life. They plan a fake marriage. Originally, the plan is to just marry at the courthouse, send the parents home, but what starts out as this light-hearted deception, it gets out of control when a friend of the family offers to throw a giant wedding banquet. And this tiny marriage that was supposed to just be this quick, okay, fake marriage, we were married, you know, she gets her green card, you leave, everybody's happy, done, becomes this huge cultural ordeal with all these moving parts. And the brilliant thing about this movie is that we see the full force that culture and cultural pressure puts on relationships between two people. And what we have is a very systematic portrayal of how straight society is forced onto gay people and queer people. And even you could extrapolate it further into people just who don't have conventional relationships. I think what Li An does very well is that he takes these complicated, detailed marriage rituals from Taiwan, which he understands very intimately. He's able to break them down and use them as very effective metaphors for how dominant culture shames people in feeling like they need to act like everybody else. For example, the idea of needing to bow before your parents before you can get married. Another moment in that same ritual where you come before the parents and ask to be able to be married, where the mother spoon feeds the new wife soup. Ang Lee holds on this shot for a good amount of time, and the wife actually ends up crying as the mother is spoon feeding her. This interesting metaphor for the mother trying to control and manipulate the new wife and the new marriage. And then it gets real out of control when right before the wedding, everybody goes into the bridal suite and looks at the bed and has a little kid jump around on the bed and encourage the fertility. It really shows that everybody's getting involved and everybody's trying to stick their nose and control this new relationship. And these are real traditions. And that's what's so interesting about the way that Li An presents them, is that he shows them in their absurdity. He's able to deconstruct them. And because he's from that culture, I think he's able to do that in a way that's both respectful to the traditions, but also is really like, man, this is screwed up. And it gets you thinking about your own customs in your own culture and the way that dominant culture is forced upon people who don't want to live a conventional life. So in that way, we're able to understand the true subtext of dominant culture and the real insidious effect that these traditions have. I mean, all of these things that are happening aren't for the benefit of the bride and groom. They're the benefit of everyone else, of the people going to the wedding. And the most insane example that Li An brings to the film is this idea of a bedding ceremony, which happens later on. After the wedding ceremony, everybody busts into the bridal suite and is like having a party around them, and then forces them to get into the bed and take off their clothes and doesn't leave until they take off their clothes and they're like satisfied that, okay, they're gonna have sex. And it's such an invasive idea, and it's an old tradition and one that's probably not exactly practiced anymore. It's one that is present in Chinese culture, it's one that's present in Western culture. I doubt that anybody actually still does that, but the brilliance of Li An to include this in the film, it really extrapolates this metaphor for like society trying to force people to be the way they want them to be straight. The movie puts us in Wai Tong's shoes, right? Where what's expected of him is to be something that he isn't. And it really got me thinking about, like, what if I had to be put into a bed with somebody who I wasn't attracted to and forced to have sex with them? That is horrific and awful. And yet, this is what society does. From a young age, everybody is told you have to be this certain way. You know, I think that still happens today. Culture all around us is all geared towards, marriage, man and woman getting together and blah, blah, blah. And then what happens is, and you're going to see this on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, you'll see this all the time. People are talking about like, oh, gay culture's taking over. Everybody's so woke now. This is so not true. This is not what's happening. All that's happening is that representations of gay people are being shown to you now, and it's making you uncomfortable. All it's doing is showing people that, hey, this is okay. This kind of relationship is normal and it's fine. And we're not going to shame you for wanting to be happy and for wanting to have a relationship with somebody that you want to have a relationship with. To think that showing gay relationships in culture is somehow trying to elicit some kind of cultural control or trying to turn people into a certain way. That's stupid. Because what really is going on is that marriage and getting married and being straight are still so dominant in our culture. As a straight person, I go around, people are like, oh, when are you gonna get married? When are you gonna have kids? When are you gonna do this? When are you gonna do that? People do that all the time. And they do that to children before they know what their sexuality is. And is 10% of the population is gay. So 9 times out of 10, it's fine, it's not a big deal. But imagine that 10th kid. Imagine that 10th kid who hears, from when he's a young kid, when are you gonna have a girlfriend? When are you gonna get married? When are you gonna do this? And that kid starts feeling weird. Even in society where gayness is okay and the parents are like, yeah, it's okay that you're gay, they still get that cultural pressure. Even if it's not explicit in our society that you need to be straight, it's implicit in all of our rituals all around us. And that's a hard thing to break. That's just how our society is. And what this movie shows is that it's very hurtful to a lot of people. It shames them. It makes them feel bad. It makes them feel like in order to impress their family, in order to make their father or their mother proud of them, especially in conservative households, in order to do that, they need to be something that they're not. And that's messed up. That hurts people. It just makes me sick to see people whining about gay culture when what it's doing is trying to just empower people that don't feel empowered. Maybe their family or their church or people around them, their friends that they grew up with, are shaming them. They can see in media, hey, this is making me feel like it's okay to be who I am, and there's people out there that accept me and care about me and might be okay with me being happy. Like, if you can't take that, then shut up. Like, just watch something else, you baby. I don't really like what I see in the culture right now. Certain people who say like, yeah, free speech is everything, but we don't want to see wokeness in our movies and videos. It's just like, dude, I thought you said free speech is everything. Just let people make what they want to make. Back to the film. So I was going on Letterboxd and I was reading reviews after I finished the film, which is something I like to do. And about this scene in particular where Wei Wei has sex with Waitong when he's drunk, they're basically forced into doing this and then they do it. People were very upset about this, some very woke people. This is the line is, what the hell are you doing? I'm liberating you. Straight woman says that to an intoxicated gay man in bed. There is literally corrective in this, and they don't even acknowledge it afterwards. In fact, they treat it as a blessing in disguise. They don't, but I'll get into that later. The gay men were treated and written horribly. They weren't. I'll get into that later. There is absolutely nothing cute about this film. I've barely seen anybody talk about this, and it's just so disappointing. So the fact that you noticed that the corrective was bad, don't you think other people might, pick up on that? There's another review here that is like, this isn't good. It was really disgusting. I can't believe they did that. It was so messed up that this woman did that. Oh, and then later, the dad is like, haha, I know that my son is gay and I'm not gonna tell him, and it's so messed up and selfish. I can't believe he did that just to get a grandchild. You figured out the point of the movie. Good for you. You realized it. So doesn't that mean that the movie's good? Doesn't that mean that? Look, if the criticism was, hey, this was disturbing and I didn't really like watching it, okay, I'm okay with that, actually. I think that's a valid thing. It's like, you don't have to want to watch things that make you upset, right? But don't say that like this movie is saying that this is good. It's not. The point of the movie is a criticism of this fact. It's trying to show people that this is what happens to gay men. And I'll break it down exactly why. I'll break it because I know you don't understand, because you don't know how to watch movies, you don't know what anything means. You can only handle like propaganda, communist propaganda films from Soviet Russia. Like, go watch the Battleship Potemkin. But you know what? This is the stupid thing about you, is that you probably can't even understand or handle that movie. And so this is why the conservatives get all like, oh God, wokeness is so out of control, it's so stupid. Is because, you know, big companies like Marvel movies and all that stuff, they realize that about you. They realize that you're so sensitive. They realize that you're so weak-willed that everything has to be very clear. It's like, women are good, gay people are good, mean people are bad to them, and they're gonna be so like a caricature of what's wrong. It couldn't be that their family, who does want what's best for them, is actually hurting them. No, we can't show stuff like that, because otherwise it's too confusing. Like, the dad can't be a good guy and a bad guy. That's too hard to understand. But that's how life is. And so if we're gonna show real things, if we're gonna show real life, then sometimes it has to be a little bit muddy, it has to be a little bit confusing. They find out that there's a baby. Parents are happy at first, but then this is very upsetting, obviously, for Simon and Wai-Tong and their relationship. It kind of screws it up, and they have a big fight in front of them. And everybody kind of starts to realize that something weird is going on. And Wai-Tong finally decides to bare his soul to his mother and tell her, hey, guess what? I'm gay and I like dudes. And I just want to impress you guys and make you happy, and it's tearing me apart. And the mother cries and makes it about her. And she makes it, oh, it's so sad, why can't you just be normal, blah, blah, blah. She goes to Wei Wei, who's very upset and conflicted in her own way, because she wants a normal relationship. She wants this to be a real relationship, but she realizes that something's missing from her life and nobody loves her. Her family's back in Shanghai and nobody cares about her. And so she wants this fake thing to become real. And now she has this baby and she's like, what do? This is everything I want, but it's not right. It really is showing you this really real thing that's happening. It's obviously exaggerated and it's in this like sitcom-y way, but it's just showing you like, this is what happens to people. Like, a woman marries a gay guy and then it hurts her that he doesn't love her because she just wants somebody that loves her. But also she is hurting the guy because he doesn't want to be there, and it's not right to force him to be there. And then the parents, they don't understand. They're so like old-fashioned that they don't understand why their son can't just be like them. And if you think that that this is saying like this is all good, it all ends out for the best, it's like you don't understand how horrible the ending of this movie actually is. The mom is crying to Wei Wei and like saying like, please keep the baby, please, like, you're so young, you don't understand how important having a kid is and what it means. And very ironically, actually, saying like a child is so important when she is ignoring her child and not doing what he wants, you know? She's looking at these photos of this kid and thinking about the grandchild and not realizing that the kid that she raised, that she's so happy about having, she's hurting him so much by not accepting him. And then the thing that is really messed up is the father gives a red envelope to Simon and says, hey, I know that you guys are really together and I really appreciate you and I love you too. And this could be a very sweet moment. But the father is also manipulating him because he says to him, he says, don't tell him that I know, because it's good that he keeps up the lie and pretends to be something that he's not, because that's how I got my grandson. You can see how messed up this is, and because the way that Ang Lee shows Wai-Tong is he's very conflicted and up by all of this. And it's like this father cares more about controlling his son than letting his son know that he loves him and that he cares about him and giving him the validation that he wants more than anything in the world. And we know for a fact that this is the point of the movie and that this is what Ang Lee is trying to say, because this is a theme throughout all of Ang Lee's films. Ang Lee is obsessed with getting validation from his father. It's the point of the movie. It is literally the point of the movie to show that the father is being an asshole. So like, to say that this movie is saying that it's all for the best to be something you're not is so insane. You so don't understand this movie. Like even Simon, like being like, oh, like thinking like, it's so great that the dad, you know, give me this red envelope and cares about me. Ang Lee sets up that character decision for us very well, because throughout the whole film, all Simon wants is to be accepted by the family. He tries to speak this choppy Chinese to them. He cooks Chinese food for them. He wants to be one of them. He wants the family to love him like he's part of the family. And then the father uses that against him and says, yeah, guess what? You're in, okay? You're cool, you're in. But let's have our thing. Let's not tell him that we know, so that we can keep this little lie going. I can have the family that I really want. He's not actually accepting him. He's saying, I want the grandson, okay? So I want the wife too. You can be here, and I'll appreciate you for being nice to him and taking care of him. And the fact that he loves you is good. But I'm not gonna tell him that. I mean, the end of this movie, the final scene, everybody is crying, sweaty, haggard. The last thing, the mom is walking away bawling, being like, why can't my son be normal? And the dad is like content at this havoc that he created. He created all of this destruction around him, and he's walking around like the king of the world because he's in control of his family. And if people could just be honest and people could say to the dad, hey, I don't care what you think. And the dad could say, hey, guess what? I love you no matter what. Everything would be fine. Everything would be better off. That's the point of the movie. That's what Ang Lee wants to say. Is that we need this deception, these lies, this pretending to be something we're not, screws you up. A meta viewing of this film where you have this sitcom situation that, you know, in the 90s was a very popular thing. And people set up this like, oh, this is a zany situation. And as the movie goes on, it totally deconstructs and becomes a horror movie, it becomes a melodrama, it becomes very upsetting, and everything is destroyed and screwed up. And it's a good example of how, like, if you were to like do a sitcom thing in real life, you would basically probably just like ruin your life. And it's another way that we see how society, like the dominant culture, the dominant society, forces its weird beliefs on us, and if we follow it, it messes us up. We're led to believe that we're supposed to live like people in the show Friends. But if we were to act like that, our whole life would be ruined. It's kind of almost saying like straight characters can kind of get away with it because they can kind of go with the motions of society. It's set up for them to like act in a way that's really weird, but like kind of still get by. But if a gay person was to try and participate in these zany antics, like everything would be destroyed. Like they would ruin their life. That to think that Ang Lee is not a very careful and meticulous filmmaker, and that he doesn't know what he's doing with this stuff, and that he's not thinking about every aspect of representation is a little silly. I just think that Ang Lee is a very careful, empathetic filmmaker that really cares about people. And because he cares about people, he does show the parents in a slightly sympathetic way, but that's because people are humans, and that everybody, even the worst person that you'll ever meet, is sympathetic. And that's the message of the movie, right? Subscribe to my Patreon. I'm gonna be doing some new Patreon videos, and I'm gonna have some new cool stuff on there. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that right now and what kind of content people wanna watch. So please let me know, like, what do you wanna see? What kind of extra stuff do you wanna see that you would pay $3 for to see on a regular basis? Let me know. Check out the Patreon, leave some comments. Let me know what to do. I've got some new things that I'm playing around with. If you like it, let me know. If you don't want to see that, let me know. If you want to see something else, let me know. All right, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.